Doing well, Billy.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the resurgence. He's back, baby. Chris Godwin's back. How about that? We finally got to see a bounce back game from Godwin. What did he have? Like 147 yards, Billy?
155.
It's even better.
Yeah. 10 catches for 155, up to 814 on the season. Thing that's so nice to see is I feel like Bucks fans, right? We've been, kind of clamoring for Chris to get back in the action. And it feels like this was one of the first games where maybe Dave Canales, Baker Mayfield, Chris Godwin, they all kind of looked at it and said, man, why don't we use Chris Godwin like in the way that he had been used so successfully over the past few seasons? Because Chris Godwin in the Tom Brady era was he was the number two on the team, but he's a slot guy, a possession guy, throw him a screen. And Chris Godwin's best asset, I think, Bucks fans, if I I feel like you'll agree with me. 3rd and 5 to 3rd and 10, right in that range. You got to throw the ball over the middle of the field to a guy who is blanketed, and you need that guy to make a gritty, tough, grown man catch. Chris Godwin is going to box out and make that contested catch. That's what he does. That's what he is built on. So it was nice to see last week the Bucks kind of got back to that. Chris Godwin dominated the middle of the field. They threw him a couple screen passes, and you got to see him make a couple plays that way too. Because even though he's not the fastest, he does have really good contact balance and has a nice ability to break tackles in space and get you some yards. So 100% beautiful to see, and I think Baker Mayfield. I think he's very socially aware, right? I think he's very good. I think he's very smart. And I think he understands personalities. And I think that ever since Chris Godwin's wife made those comments, yes, it's in the rear view, but it's not forgotten. And I think I think Baker Mayfield would like to keep Chris Godwin happy. I think he knows how important it is to keep, his guys around him happy and satisfied. So I'm sure he wants to see Chris Godwin succeed because he would like to keep everybody kind of,
Well, not even
happy.
not even just that too, but like it's just good to get him involved, you know, like because he's good at football. That's kind of the more important realization that I hope is being made is that yeah, like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, they're pretty good whenever they're working together, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. Second game over 100 yards this season, right? First one was all the way back against New Orleans in the beginning of the year. So it's been a while. And in that game, if you remember, Mike Evans went out of the game early with a hamstring injury. So that has a lot to do with potentially in that game why Godwin was able to get so many reps. I just think you're seeing Baker Mayfield, and again, I don't want to make it all everything about Baker Mayfield, but I think you see Baker Mayfield, he understands the team very well, understands the personalities, and he's going to do his best to try to make sure everybody's content and everybody's fed. And Chris Godwin was kind of the squeaky wheel and not getting fed, and not to any fault of his own, but I think that sits in Baker's mind, and he would like to see, correct that if he can. And it was just nice to see, like,
Well,
okay, Chris can still do these things. Like, hello, maybe we should incorporate it more.
and it's so important, right? Because now you have three left to go. You are first place in the South, but the Saints are right on your tail. And you need Chris Godwin down this
Yeah,
stretch. Three
yeah.
very important games: the Jacksonville game, the Saints game, and the Saints game is probably going to be the most important out of the three. You
Yeah.
win that, you're probably winning the South, right? So
I think there's a good chance
you
that
need,
game's the only game that matters. Yeah.
yeah, like you need Chris Godwin. You need this team to be at its best. And this offense, Billy, you'll agree, if this is at its best, whenever you're getting Mike Evans and Chris Godwin involved.
Yeah. I think the big performers, right, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down the stretch, Tampa's defense this year has been kind of beat up and it has been it's been underneath the standard of what we've come to expect, but there's a lot of reasons for that. I think the offense is going to have to play a big role. I think the defense will just muddle through and play decent, not terrible, not great, just solid. And the guys you're looking at down the stretch, it's going to be Baker Mayfield, Rashad White, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Those are going to be the four performers that will dictate how the season goes. If they play well,
Sprinklings of Kate Otten and Dave Moore. Thank you. Shout out Dave Moore. Shout him out.
yeah, I actually have it written on my paper. I wanted to, so we'll do it now. I wanted to give you flowers because you called for Moore to be in the game for weeks. It felt like you called for him. You said,
Let's
"Can we
hold
get
on.
this man in the game?"
We'll get to Dave Moore. We will get to David Moore. We will get to David Moore. Okay, we will. We will. But because I want to talk about that man separately. Um, but yes, yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
I
Those
think it's
four.
those four guys. They got to be, and they're all four of them are playing tremendous right now, which is very ideal for Tampa Bay. Rashad White is on a heater. Chris Godwin getting back into it. Mike Evans is just always going to be Mike Evans, and Baker Mayfield is peaking. So like, if we could just keep those four in rhythm, the way they're playing in rhythm right now, which is really going to be on Dave Canales to kind of keep the offense flowing. Those are the guys who are going to determine the Buccaneers, future as far as this postseason is concerned.